get started.
Thank you. Wonderful. Okay, so welcome everybody to the Automation Studio Bootcamp. We've got another hands-on session queued up for today. We're going to be building in SQL. So I think it was last week, excuse me, the week before, last week was Thanksgiving week. The week before we had a Essentials in SQL fundamental session that we walked through, and we're going to bring in a builder today. We're just going to start from scratch, building out those SQL use cases. So looking forward to that. Please share any thoughts, suggestions in the channel. We will, want that constant feedback. So updates as far as upcoming sessions for this fantastic Automation Studio Bootcamp. We've got a session tomorrow. Michelle is going to be leading on creating and managing segments and data in Automation Studio. And then next week, we've got 2 sessions on importing and exporting data in Automation Studio, and then the enhanced data contact data model as well. We've got 2 more hands-on sessions for this year scheduled. We've got Maggie Ellis, a guest instructor who's presented and has been a builder in the past. She's going to be building a automation-fed journey end-to-end next Wednesday. And then we've got pretty much open topic for the 18th. We'll see how our queries go today, but so please provide your email in the chat if you're interested to be a builder, and we will sign you up for that as well. And then JB's got, we've got a schedule for deep dive sessions for this Automation Studio. They're going to be kicking off in January and February. So more to come on that. You'll hear from her on those updates as they come through. So SQL basics. So for those who might have attended the session that we did on SQL 2 weeks ago, we covered the 3 main functions of any SQL query, the select, from, and where. And we covered as many, if not all, of these functions in each of those different sections of a query. So we're going to be digging into this today and building the use cases that we sort of demoed in that session. Even if people want to go in a different direction, we're happy to do that. So creative SQL building today in all 3 of these core sections of SQL, and also building out different functions like different types of joins, or using the case functionality in the select statement, or using the group by and the where clause to help filter in that data. So we'll be going into these a little bit more in detail. We might come back to this slide, but I want to give an overview of the areas, the functions that we're going to be covering as much as we can in our session today. And just like we talked about in that session 2 weeks ago, we'll probably refer back to this slide when we're building out these joins. Sometimes it helps visually to understand the different types of joins that we're going to be building today. So we might come back to this slide or use a query, cheat sheet reference. We'll be using some other references in the community for help and just to visualize the different functionality. So let's talk about the use cases that we're going to build. So first one is we've built different journeys in all these different boot camps, especially the Journey Builder Bootcamp, which just was completed. And this also sets up for Maggie's session next week, where she's going to build out from a query all the way through the journey. So this lead nurture journey scenario is we want to pull in leads from the Salesforce CRM environment. And we want to, so that's part one, what leads do we want to send into this lead nurture journey from the Salesforce CRM environment? We want to bring specific types of leads. And then we want to also prevent leads from entering twice. So we want to use a different type of join to dedupe this, our query against the data extension that they're going to be fed into the journey itself. And then for an extra bonus, we want to see if we can use a case statement and populate a super hot lead designation of specific leads depending on their status. So that's sort of the first use case. We'll probably only be able to tackle that today, but we'll take a look at, see if we can do the second one, so give an overview of the second one, which is engagement reporting. So we want to take a look at using the data views like the click data view, and we want to pull in all of the engagement that we've had across a variety of different subscribers that we've had over, say, like the last month. And we want to get a count of how many by email, how many clicks we've gotten by email. So we want to pull in all of those clicks into a query and output them. And then we also want to use maybe the max or the group by and the count function to say, okay, over the last month, by email, these are the number of clicks that's been received. So that's the second use case, completely different from the first. So anyways, so we'll use those use cases. Please throw out different use cases. We can always pivot there, and we'll go from there. So we want to bring back Amit. Thank you again for joining. And so we'll have Amit give us a little bit of background for those who weren't here for his hands-on session. I think was part of the Journey Builder Bootcamp, Amit, where you were.
Yes. It was last month.
Builder. So yeah, fantastic. Would you like to give a little background of your experience in Salesforce and Marketing Cloud?
So I have been in marketing automation space for over 5 years. I have worked on different platforms like Pega, Salesforce, Marketing Cloud, Braze, Vision 6. And in my previous company, I was with ANZ, where I was working on Pega. Now I want to go back to Salesforce Marketing Cloud, and that's the reason why I'm here. Thanks, Tim.
Awesome, fantastic. Thank you. Thank you for being a volunteer. Okay, before we pass it off to Amit, I just want to share our setup in the Salesforce CRM environment. So to prepare for this session, I created 2 leads for Amit, and we've got them named warm and hot. So what we've got here, what we want to use this for our use case, where first of all we want to bring in Amit, right? So our use case is we want to send Amit through a journey because he's a lead that was recently created. We'll go into that detail when we build out that query. So that's part one, is we want to pull in both of these leads that were recently created for Amit. The second part is that, or really the third part, the bonus part, was we wanted to create an Uber ranking for Amit based on criteria, not only on the lead itself, but also the account or the company that's associated. So we're going to be using 2 fields, this predictive score, which is a designation on the lead of what his ranking within the lead itself. And then we're also going to want to bring in the account synchronized data extension into our query. So Amit's company name was Cervello, and we want to use this ABM tier field as well to use these 2 different criteria associated with Amit. So if Amit is a hot lead, which he is, at least for that one lead, and the company that he's associated with is a tier 1 hot, then we want to make a special field in our data extension that goes into the journey that says, okay, Amit is a super hot lead. Let's get this to sales right away. Let's treat that lead a little bit differently. And the other example, we've got a warm lead for Amit, and you can see in this lead, this predictive score is still hot, but the company that he's associated with, Acme, it doesn't have a tier 1 hot designation. So we should see Amit that field populated in 2 ways. One super hot, and then maybe one that's warm. So a way to do some segmentation using multiple different objects in Salesforce to do that. So let me stop sharing, and then Amit, I'm going to have you share your screen, and we'll start with that use case.
Hi, Tim, I need an access as well.
I'm sorry?
I need an access as well. I don't have access.
Oh, you don't have access.
I tried my previous
I see you.
login, but it's not working.
Oh, oh, interesting. Okay, let me see. Hold on one second. Oh, let me share my screen. Okay, so let me pull up. So we're in Marketing Cloud. Let's go under our users. I was just checking out you. You're still an administrator in Marketing Cloud, but maybe your access. Okay, locked out. That's interesting. I wonder where that happened. Okay, try that again. See if that. Enabled, enrolled.
In the meantime, that said, I see some questions in the chat regarding the recordings. So all the recordings will be uploaded to the YouTube channel Trailblazing Together, or you can also search on @MC Learning Camp. I'm putting that in the chat, so you can find all the recordings. I'm also gonna share the link for the Journey Builder sessions. Few people have asked for the Journey Builder sessions. I'm gonna post the link of the playlist. We have three different playlists, just like the way we are doing three different series. One for the foundations, one for the hands-on, and one for the deep dive. For the Journey Builder as well, we have three different playlists. So I'll be posting those three links in the chat. Please find it. And Tim, over to you. I'm done.
Thank you, JB. And I still owe you a video to upload. I apologize. I have it on my list. So thank you. I apologize for Journey Builder. And just so I'm walking through those, I just wanted to also check. I just added, if those were watching, I went into installed packages, found the Query Studio, which is where we're going to be working today. And I just made sure that I checked Amit on that. So
Tim, it's still not working.
Okay, let me. So let me send your user, and then maybe I'll reset your password. Here's your user, and then let's change password. I'll just do it back to, I always use PASSWORD, 123 $. Okay. $2. All right.
Team, what's the verification code?
It should go to your email.
Okay.
I'm not sure why you got locked out. Maybe. So I apologize for that.
But Tim, the email is mcdemo.com, so I don't think I haven't received an email.
The email that I have that you should receive an email for the verification code is that email.
I haven't received any.
Sometimes it might take a second or two. Still no email? Did it have you, did you get a verification? Put your stuff here.
Okay. Okay, just give me a second. I will try again.
No problem.
5, 6, 7.
Okay, great question, Santiago. What is the difference between obtaining data from Sales Cloud and SFMC using imports or using synchronized data extensions? Do the latter incur additional costs? The only additional costs that you need to be mindful of with synchronized data extensions are syncing over contacts and leads, as they'll add to your overall contact count. In marketing clouds, you have to be careful of reaching those limits. If you exceed your limits, then those are what you need to be mindful of. I don't know. I would imagine that the synchronized data extension is your best bet because they're always synced and updated every 15 minutes. Whereas imports, unless you're using that data to be transformed using a query, which you would use the synchronized data extensions anyways, I think your best practice is to use the synchronized data extensions. Let's see, did we accept to get automation use case on trigger entry source like Azure AWS? Do we accept to automation use case, trigger entry source like Azure, AWS. We are, for our session next week, our goal is to do a part of our import data. We're hoping to pull that from an S3 bucket. So we're hopefully that's gonna be an automation that we'll be looking to do that from AWS. I don't know if that was your question, Bilal. Santiago, did I help answer that question? Be curious to hear more information on your use case for using an import of Sales Cloud data versus the synchronized data extensions. And sometimes you might use an import for, I know we've found a little bit of a roadblocker with synchronized data extensions related to history records. So like, for instance, the contact history isn't available to be synced, and you might use that from an importing standpoint.
Tim, it's working now.
Okay, fantastic. Yeah, if you want to share your screen, Amit. Thank you for working through that, Amit. Apologies. It's just part of being on hands-on, and thank you for being patient and working through it. Awesome, fantastic. All right, so let's take a look and see if you've got Query Studio. So over there on the right, under that App Exchange, yeah, cool. Let's click on Query Studio. Amit, have you used Query Studio before?
Yes, I did. I mean, not much, but
okay,
yes,
fantastic.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay, so here's where, for those who haven't used Query Studio, it's a free application. Oh my gosh, it's the best. Totally worth getting. Just look under the App Exchange. What this allows you, you're going to see us use today. We don't have to create a separate query and a data extension. We're just going to create these queries, pull in this data, validate everything before we actually create the queries themselves. Okay, so Amit, we're going to do, whenever I like to build a query, start a query, I just do the 3 sections. So I do a all caps select the top, and then I would hit return a couple of times. And then we're going to do from all caps, and then a couple of returns, and we're going to do where all caps. Right, so the overview of the 3 sections. From, where's the data coming from? Those are going to be our synchronized data extension. The select are those fields that we want to populate into our data extension. The where is, we don't want to pull in all of those records. We want to filter in certain points, and those 3 big areas. All right, let's start with the from. So we're going to start simple. Our source is, for this use case, we want to pull in those leads from the synchronized data extensions in our synchronized data extensions for the lead object. So Amit, if you duplicate this browser tab, we're going to go hunt down those synchronized data extensions and find them. So we'll want to keep this window open. So if you duplicate the browser tab at the top, so you know in your Google tab that you have for Marketing Cloud, if you just right click on your,
Yes.
okay, and we'll just create a new tab for Marketing Cloud, because we'll want to use the synchronized data extensions.
Okay, just give me a second.
Oh, it's the Zoom sometimes gets in the way. Okay, was it? Well, I'm curious, because a question, if we set up an automation recurring 15 minutes and somehow the activities take more than 15 minutes, what would be happening in that case? Will it throw an error? And is there a way we can solve for this?
Sorry.
Yeah, you might need to be mindful of that if your queries take longer than 15 minutes. If you're having that same query run through every time, it's definitely worth making sure that that doesn't exceed that. You could have a separate set of queries running. So you could have, if your query lasts for 30 minutes, you could have the duplicated actual automation duplicated. So Amit, if you could duplicate this browser tab, we want to create another tab in Marketing Cloud.
So yes.
So in your top, like in Google, where you've got all those different tabs, can you create another tab for Marketing Cloud, like right next to this one in your browser tab?
New tab or new window?
A new tab.
Okay. I already have 2 tabs.
Okay. For some reason, I'm just seeing just the one with the Query Studio.
No.
Do you have an?
Okay. Sorry. I will share again.
Okay, cool. Sorry.
Sorry, I was sharing a different window.
No problem. Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so let's go to your second tab. We're going to navigate to find that lead synchronized data extension. Now, Amit, do you know where that's located? Do you want to just sort of drive us there? We're looking to go to Contact Builder, the synchronized data extension folders. So that's under Audience Builder. Yeah, Contact Builder, fantastic. Sometimes it takes a second for that to appear. Here we go. Okay, Venki says, can we import the data from other than Salesforce, like Snowflake? Absolutely, yes. We're going to be showing the SFTP functionality. So it's just connecting to that FTP. Absolutely, we'll be showing it. I don't know if we'll be doing Snowflake, but we'll be doing AWS S3 next week. Okay, so in the top, you've got the data extensions tab. Yep. And we'll click on that. And then on the left, yeah, I can just X out of that. If you might need to scroll, there we go. Perfect. Cool. We'll go to synchronized data extensions over there on the left in that folder. We'll click on the folder itself, the blue text. Yep. And then if you hit the name column, it'll sort it alphabetically. See where it says name, just the left, yep. And then if you scroll down, we should be able to see the lead synchronized data extension. There we go. So let's click on that lead underscore Salesforce. Perfect. So what we're going to want to copy is that, see that top where it says lead underscore Salesforce? We want to copy that name. Yep. And now we're going to go back to your query tab, and this is going to be in our from statement. So, yep, we'll do that. We'll just paste that in right there. And let's move that where below the from. Sorry if let's go the opposite way. Fantastic. Okay. So we've got our data. It's coming from the lead synchronized data extension, at least for the start. Now, after that lead underscore Salesforce, let's do let's add a capital AS on the same line. Yep, and we'll have a space, capital AS, and then we're going to use the letter L. Perfect. Okay, now we know where we're getting this from. We're going to also do a join to the account, but we're going to do that in a minute. So now that we know where our data is coming from, now we want to start outputting some of the data that we want to see that we need in order to send this person an email. So we're going to start with what we would use as a subscriber key, right? So that's important in Marketing Cloud. We want to make a designation. Do we want to use email address as a subscriber key? In this case, because we have a Salesforce ID, we're going to use that. So if we go back to the synchronized date extension for lead, your second tab, if you go to the records, if you click on the records tab there at the top, we'll be able to see the data, right? So these are all of the leads that are coming in from Salesforce. Your leads, your 2 leads should be in here that we want to pull out. And you can see a little bit over on the right, there's that ID field, that ID column, and a lead in Salesforce starts with 00Q. So it's always good whenever you're looking at your data to validate by saying, okay, I think it's ID that's going to have that lead ID, but it's always good just to double check that by seeing that in the data itself. So if we go back, so yeah, if you want to, you may not be able to copy from there, but we can just type it in. So if we go up to, yep, and then in the select statement, if you want to just do a space, and then if you want to type in ID, and then let's do an as, a capital as here. And then we're going to name this subscriber key. You can name that all one word, subscriber key. And so, in the Marketing Cloud world, typically you want to name your subscriber key. It's just kind of helpful so that in your date extensions, that is our subscriber key. You could just leave it as ID if you wanted, but typically it's best practices in there. And that's what that as statement's doing. It's saying, okay, when you're going to write this to the date extension, we're going to be looking for the field called subscriber key, not ID. Okay, fantastic. Let's go back to the lead, synchronized date extension. The next field we want is the email address. So we want to pull in that field that isn't. Now, Amit, if you go to the properties tab on this, so the typical 2-step process is, you want to find your data that makes the right sense for the field. And then let's copy that email field over there. If you copy the, let's copy that and let's bring that over. And we're going to do it on our next line on the select. So if you hit return, and then we're going to paste in that email. Fantastic. You could just type in email, right? Totally could. You don't have to do that process, but it's usually best practice because these fields can get complex, and typing them in, it just can cause errors. So it's usually better to do that. All right, so one little tip whenever you're doing queries and you're adding multiple fields on a select, before email, Amit, on the same line, can you add a comma? Okay, great. So in SQL, if you're familiar with it, every line has to end with a comma. So, but instead of adding that comma to the subscriber key line, a way to never forget to put in the comma is for the second field, always start with a comma. So it's just a little tip there. All right,
just a quick one. So why don't we add this comma in the end? Because I have seen mostly like this type of syntax.
Yeah, so that comma on line 2 is the comma for the end of line 1. But just because we're putting it there, it just is a way of remembering to, if you always start with the comma, you're basically taking care of the comma from the previous line. So, yeah.
Interesting.
And it's up to you if you want to do that. You certainly could just have the comma be at the end of each, something like that. So great question. Okay, we've got email address, fantastic. Let's go, we're going to do some basic personalization. Let's add in first name. Let's go back to our lead, and we can scroll down and see if we can find maybe there's a first name field that looks right. We'll copy that. Cool. So that gives us some personalization. Now, I know, Amit, we did take a look at this predictive score field on the lead that had that hot, warm on the lead. So let's see if we can pull that in as well. You might see if you can scroll through and see if we can find it. There it is right there. Yep, let's copy that in. Okay, Ogo, I notice I always have issues with the select statement in Query Studio when I use select. Yes, yes, it is. Yes, Query Studio is not there's some differences between the two. And actually, yeah, I would recommend not using the select star in Automation Studio or in queries in general. Recently, Salesforce support has mentioned that I can't remember what the issue was related to star. They may not support pulling in all of the fields in a data extension. So definitely recommend whenever you're building your queries to list out all the fields. I know that's cumbersome because these fields can be quite numerous. But absolutely, Ogo, great call out. It is not the perfect solution. There are a couple of different tweaks, but for the whole, it's pretty close. Okay, a great call out. Thank you for mentioning that. Okay, so we'll start with this. This looks good. Now we've got our select statement. We know what we want to output. Now let's go to the where clause. So we want to pull in, we don't want to pull in all of these leads. So our scenario is we want to pull in leads, let's say, that were created within the last 24 hours, right? So we're running this on a daily basis. We've got leads that are being created by sales, the day before, and the next morning we want to drop all of these leads into this lead nurture journey, but just the ones that were created within the last 24 hours. So there should be a field on the lead that has a created date. Let's see if we can scroll and see if we can find something like that type of a field. And it might be, let's see. There it is, created date. We'll copy that field. And we're going to paste that in the where, section. Okay, fantastic. And now we need to sort of build out a little bit of SQL coding here. So let's add a space. And then we want to do a greater than, like a little caret, greater than and equals. Yep, and then an equals. And then we'll do a space. All right, now we're going to use the date add function. So it's all one word, date add. And we're going to do an open paren. And let's make that open paren right next to date add. It may not be needed, but sometimes usually better. And we're going to do a round open paren, parentheses. Yes, thank you. Okay, and so there's three parts of the date add function. The first part is your designation of the time frame. So in our case, we're going to use day. So D-A-Y, comma. And so the first part, so it can be hour, it can be month, it can be quarter. So these are options there for day, but we're going to start with day. We want 24 hours. And so the next part is the number of days. So we want 1 day, so 24 hours. And we're going to make that a -1. So we want a day ago. So that's why you would do a -1 there to determine 24 hours ago. And let's do a comma. And then the next function here is get date, all one word. And then do an open paren.
After this?
Open parentheses. Right where you were, yep. And it automatically adds an N1, which is nice, kind of cool. So get date pulls the current system database date of that second. So it's basically saying, I want to pull in all of those leads that were created within the last 24 hours based on the current date. So let's run this, see what we get.
So we should take the current date.
That should work. It's going to pull in the current date. It's going to fill that in.
Okay.
So let's try hitting run. Another thing, if you want to do Amit, something good to do when you're doing Query Studio, copy this query and paste it in a notepad, paste it in a Word doc, whatever you want to do. Because if you accidentally hit the refresh button on this, it gets wiped out. So whenever you're working in Query Studio, that's one thing you want to do is just save your queries along the way. If you lose internet access and you refresh, it's gone. There's no history of it. All right. So, very cool thing about Query Studio, you can see the little timestamp up there, 31 seconds. Another thing that's helpful about Query Studio, on average, gives you an idea of how long this is going to run. Cool. Very cool to see that. And then you can see the output we've got down here below. So there are those two leads that we had created, sort of looked at in the environment. We've got emit, the two different leads that were created. We don't have that created date, which we could output, but that's okay. And we've got the predictive score like we saw, which was hot and hot. So we're outputting that data and, relatively straightforward here, but still, relatively complex given the different functionality we've got here. Okay, fantastic. Any questions, Amit, on this? Yeah.
Yes. So if we run the query, does it save this data somewhere?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah, it does. Yes, there is it sort of saves it within the system. Okay. And you can export that in Contact Builder if you wanted to, and that will create a file for you to look at. I think it lasts, and when you export in Contact Builder for, I think it's like 24 hours.
24.
Yeah, no, great question. Okay, so part two. Now what we want to do is we want to pull in the account synchronized data extension. We want to pull in this ABM score so that we could maybe do, if we have time, do a case statement. So let's go back over to your synchronized data extension tab. And let's duplicate this tab one more, because I think it's good to have both of these tabs open, one for lead and one for account. All right, fantastic. And let's go into that third tab. And now, Amit, we want to navigate to the account synchronized data extension. And then I'm going to answer some questions. Can we save the query in Query Studio and reuse it? I don't believe so. No, I think you have to just copy that, and you need to save it, create a query. You'll need to create a data extension in order to do that, though. Just want to know about the field predictive score. What info does that contain? Okay, great question. The predictive score is a sort of a modeled after sales wings. They have this predictive score. So it is a lead ranking system that we're using as a model in the Salesforce CRM environment. So it's based on that use case. Account underscore Salesforce. So yes, let's click on that account underscore Salesforce. Okay. And then we'll copy that name like you did for lead. So if we want to copy the account underscore Salesforce at the top. You can see that up there at the top where it says synchronized data extensions, and it says account underscore Salesforce. Perfect. Yeah, let's just copy that name. And then we're going to bring that over to our query. And we're going to do that. So we're going to do a return on the from. Yep. Let's hit return there. And then we're going to do a join, all caps join. And then space. And then we'll paste that in there. And then let's name this as A for account. Perfect. But we'll just use the letter A.
Sorry.
So we'll do just as A. Perfect. And let's do space. Same line. Now we need to add an on statement. So an ON we'll add there. Okay, perfect. Now we need to determine, okay, we've got these two data extensions, two databases. how do they talk together? What are those fields that are the same in both of those data extensions that we can link those records together? So let's go to the lead synchronized data extension. And let's look at our data. So let's go to the records tab. And if we scroll over a little bit, let's just sort of take a look at this data. Let's scroll over a little bit to the right and see what we've got here for data. Sort of looking for something that might relate to an account. Not seeing anything yet. Okay, company. Yeah. Now, this isn't the best scenario, but we're just using it for now. And ultimately, really, leads aren't necessarily linked by an ID to an account. It's more context. So we wanted to use this lead as an example. So if the lead was filled out correctly by sales, they should hopefully be entering in an account that might be tied to what they're working on. So we know that the account name most likely is on that lead object. So let's go copy that company field in the properties tab. Yeah, we'll just make sure that we got the right syntax. It was near the bottom. Yeah, let's copy company. So it's up a little further up. A little further up. So if you scroll, there we go. See company. Yeah, we'll copy company. Perfect. And let's go back to our query, and then let's paste it right where you got it there. And then let's put an L dot company or an L dot right before company there. So on that same line, if instead of it just being company, if you could do an L period company. Yep. Yep, like the L is for lead, and then a period.
Sorry, team, I didn't understand.
No problem. Yeah, if you do a period.
In bracket?
So you're right. So do an L.
Yes.
And then a period. Like a dot, the period, like the end of a sentence.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Thank you. Perfect. Yeah, fantastic. Okay, and now after company, we're going to do an equals. And now we need to find on the account itself the field on the account that has its name. So let's click into the account synchronized data extension. And let's see what we've got here. So if we scroll over to the right, let's see if we can see if there's a field that maybe it's name. There we go, name. So let's go to that in the properties tab. And there it is, fantastic. And then we're going to want to do that to be an A period name. So it's from the A meaning account. Perfect. And then let's go back to the account synchronized data extension. And then we want to find this field called ABM tier. So if you scroll, yeah, let's see. I'm not seeing it there. There it is. See that ABM tier __ C? It's sort of at the left. There it is. Let's go pull in that value. And it might be up a little further up. There it is. See that ABM tier? Okay. Now we want to put this in the select statement. So this is going to be another field there. And then we're going to want to add an A dot right before that ABM underscore tier.
So sorry, Tim.
So the letter A, sort of like what you did with the A dot before the A
Okay.
period name. Yep. Okay, and I know we're running out of time. Let's see if we can run this. I think we might need to do an L dot on all of those fields, but let's see if it works without it. Sometimes it works without, if the main synchronized data extension, yep, that's what it is. So on line 1, if you do an L dot on the ID, yes, so every single one of those, you're going to want to do an L period. Perfect. On the email, on the first name, on the predictive score, yep, and on the ID on line 1 as well. Yep. And then also on the created date and down below on line 11. Sorry, we should have done that earlier. Yep. Okay, let's try that one more time. And Santiago, thank you for volunteering for the 18th. We will absolutely do that. We'll send you an email. Thank you for volunteering. Okay, I know we're at pretty much at time, but we should hopefully be able to see, now we'll be able to see that ABM tier populated. It should be, one should be tier 1 hot, one should be tier 1 warm. There we go. We were able to join those 2 synchronized data extensions. We're pulling in data from 2 different sources here, and we'll be able to output that in our select statement. So we'll decide whether we want on the 18th continue down this path. Nice work, Amit, on this. Excellent job. I got to hop to a meeting, but thanks everybody for joining. Great job, Amit. We'd love to have you back again. Sorry about the connection issues at the beginning. And thanks everybody for joining. We'll see you in our next hands-on session, or please join tomorrow for Michelle's session. Really going to be really informative. A lot of great content there.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks, Amit.
Everyone.
Thanks, JB.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Hope to see you tomorrow again. Bye.
You sure. Thanks.
Bye.